My next poem is based on a real childhood experience, but of course, in reality, it was not as dramatic as I made it out to be in this poem. I basically embellished, hopefully to make a better poem. And this poem is called A Memory of Summer. Grandpa and I walked to the woodpile. He carried split pine and let me hold his favorite pipe, Grandma's gift when they were newly married. I sat on the ground and watched him heap the firewood high, his back to me, talking of other lands, lost times he hungered to replace. He stacked and spoke. I silently smoked, pretending, puffing the unlit pipe, tobacco rich, sweet smelling. A snake slid from the shattered logs, copper body gleaming. I froze, eyes wide. The wooden pipe dropped from my mouth and crashed onto a rock and cracked. The snake coiled, tongue flickering. Grandpa turned, clutching a log. In a flash, he smashed its shining head. Underneath, the snake exploded, yellow, green, and dead. Grandpa buried it, then carefully slipped the broken pipe bowl near his breast. Shame about that snake, he said, but some things can't be helped. And some things, Grandpa added, you just never can replace. Snake part was real. And the snake part was real, the pipe part kind of made it. The next three poems I'm going to read, I go through these periods of trying to emulate other poets. You know, when I like something, I want to try to do it too. So a year ago, a friend of mine went to a week-long conference with Gregory Orr, who's a really well-known poet. He's all these collections, all these awards, and he teaches at the University of Virginia. And he is considered a master of short lyric free verse, and he's very much into poetry as therapy, especially for childhood traumas. And unfortunately, he had a terrible childhood trauma because when he was 12 years old, he accidentally shot and killed his younger brother in a hunting accident. So this kind of tragedy basically informs his poetry. And I want to read you a quote from him before I do my own poems, because it gives you a really good idea of what he thinks of poetry, and a lot of times what I do with poetry too. It's so therapeutic for me. It's like a lifesaver. So this is Gregory Orr. I believe in poetry as a way of surviving the emotional chaos, spiritual confusions, and traumatic events that come with being alive. And I'm like right with him. I think he's right. So the first poem of mine is called Glancing. Chipped teapot in the window of the antique shop, its handle gold and blue. I think, this is just like my mother's. I think, this is my mother's. I think of that morning, the shattered cup. And the next one is called Same Old, Same Old. Drinking coffee in the Golden Star Diner on Route 46, waiting for my father. He said he would be here. He always says he'll be here. Trespass. He was here. Eyes reflected in the midnight kitchen window. But those are my eyes, his eyes, that he gave to me, that blinked and I was born. On a peg in the hallway for 20 years, I hang his sweater, heavy with dust. The photographs I burned, but I still see him. I can smell him. And the moaning, when I hear it now, just means that upstairs, somebody is dreaming. Maybe someone's cold. Those are my Gregory words.